All right. So lately I've been experimenting with different ways to increase the production value, namely audio. I have a camera, I have an external mic. A few months back, Jeremy was kind enough to send it. I was using it for a while. Back then, I had an editor living with me, and he was taking care of the compression, the upload. It's not that complicated. You take the memory card out of the camera, you stick it into the computer, and you upload it. It's pretty much it. You know, it's like, oh my god, it's way too much work. So I've been trying. I mean, it's been more convenient to do it on the phone, and lately I've been doing it on the laptop, which is the photo booth app. But the audio has taken a big hit as a result. And last night I experimented with, different impersonations that I'd done throughout the time that I've had the channel. Country, Taco, Tom. And it was like 3 in the morning. I was just having fun by myself. Kind of came out funny, so I uploaded on Patreon. That's some of the stuff that I have up there. And I hate to be repetitious about Patreon, but it's really why I've been so consistent, because I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay rent now. It's taken care of. Like, I already know that it was taken care of last month, and now it's taken care of this month. And that's an amazing thing. It's something I'm very appreciative of. I never thought that just telling my life story could actually generate a living for me. And I'm grateful, and I appreciate it. And I hold up my end of the bargain with that platform. Ask people that are members of Patreon. It starts at 10 cents a day. It's $3 a month. For $100 a month, it goes all the way up. So there's different, incentives for different tiers. But for $100 a month, I mean, we're talking beyond your wildest dreams. For $100 a month, you can meet up with me and butt fuck me just anywhere. Like, where are you, dog? I'm on Wilshire. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Uber over there, and just with a robe, and just, I'll serve you in the butt. It's like, damn, you butt fuck like a hog, homie. Good work. No, but for $100 a month, you get a personal Skype call with me or a phone call. It's up to you. I've been very busy recently with outside stuff. I have outside projects going on, but it's great to have this as stable income. And, not for everything to be precarious. And I do appreciate you guys. I'll continue to come up with ideas that are content outside of myself, other people that I think are interesting, whatever the case. I'm learning how to edit more, so I'm going to start doing more stuff like that. And you guys will be with me as the documentary is released. As I'm going to the festivals, I'll be doing pretty much vlog-like YouTube stuff the whole time, just being whatever's going on. So let's get into the story. I believe that where we had ended last time, what did happen? I'm at Lompoc. We've already met Big Meech. We know that Jamie Lake is there, and then I'm essentially extorting him for his bunk-ass morphine. It's like 15 milligrams, and it's just such a hassle to cook that stuff up. It clogs the binky. Nobody wants to let you use the binky because it clogs it. How much does a binky cost? I'm sure is something that 2 or 3 of you are wondering out there. A binky, generally, if it's put together, it's about $20. That's what, street money, that's what the value would be. Just for the syringe part, or the needle part, hollowed out insulin syringe needle. And people, you can send that, or I'm not saying that you should do this. I'm just saying I've heard that people send it, they weave it through legal work, and they can send it through the mail. Sometimes in visit, people will put them, just the needle tip, in their shoes, and then they switch the needle onto the inmate's shoes. So the needle tips are easy to get in, or sometimes there's diabetics that get it from the, from when they go get their insulin shots. They just steal a needle. Push and pull goes for about $50, sometimes $100. It just depends on where you are. So that just the needle part's about $5 or $10. If it's put together in a binky, it's $20. If it's a brand new push and pull, $50, $150. Just like I said, depending on where you are and, supply and demand. What else? What's going on? Oh, I know. My wonderful, wonderful ex-wife, my soulmate. I called her, and, I wasn't bluffing when I told her that I didn't want to be with her anymore. I mean, she was the one that had initially started saying that. She was trying to distance herself from me. Well, maybe we should, I don't know, separate. I don't know. I'm just attracted to so many other people. I just can't imagine waiting 70 whole days for you. Bitch. And then I had, I'm sure you can imagine I'm the kind of guy where, like, it doesn't matter if I don't even know you. I'm just telling you about my life. There are going to be some paisa next to me that doesn't even understand English. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, dude. And then I smuggled in tobacco for her. $3,000, homeboy. Nothing. She sends me $10. Whore. And the paisa's just like, I think he understands. Like, he understands that I'm not happy. That's all he needs to understand. Because, in prison, everybody's so self-absorbed anyway. Just like out here. I mean, it's no different. That nobody's even listening. They're just kind of listening to you talk, but they're not understanding what you're saying. They're not comprehending it. It's no different in prison. There's a lot of phony people faking the funk. And so I had put a lot of thought into it, and I had a lot of, hollow advice. I put everything on the table. There's a 5-year-old, I think he was 6 at the time. There's a 6-year-old kid involved. It's selfish of me, as emotionally abusive as I was during that marriage. The fact that I was a heroin addict in full-blown heroin addiction, a raging alcoholic, that certainly didn't help the child with his cognitive development, being exposed to that. I feel like in one way I contributed to his juvenile delinquency. And his grandmother, my ex's mother, who has threatened to sue me for slander, even though I've never said her name, and I never would because of the child. Really, if it was just my ex-wife and her mom, I would totally put their names out there and put them on blast because I don't care. There's a kid involved, and at a certain point, he will be older, and I want to protect his anonymity. I don't want to constantly be saying their names and everything. But she had reached out to me on Facebook, and she was like, just basically telling me how upset she was that I was talking about them so explicitly, and that it was upsetting her. And I can understand that. I am mad that she called the prison or emailed the prison and said that I was abusive and that I was a danger to the community, and that if they let me out, that they would be liable for it. That essentially cost me a month of freedom. That's something that I can't forgive. But do I hate her? Do I hate your daughter? Do I hate your grandson? Absolutely not. One thing that really pissed me off about that message was, you'll never be in my grandson's life. I never said that I wanted to. What I've said, and I think it's a noble thing, is if I get in a position where I'm making a lot of money, who knows if I will? Maybe I won't. Some people say that my career is gaining momentum, and at a certain point I'll have a lot of money. I don't know, but I might someday. And simply my point was that if I'm ever in the position to, I certainly want to help him financially. I don't have to be in his life, but that's something that I want to do for myself, just to feel better for what I put him and everyone involved through. But I'm not the only one guilty in that, and you need to own up to your shit, and you're part of it. Your daughter's fucked up for a certain reason, certainly not because she had a good upbringing. So you need to own up to that. And sorry for going off on that rant, but it kind of coincides with how I was thinking about it, because now I was in prison, and yes, I'm still on drugs, morphine, doing bunk heroin, Suboxone whenever I can get my hands on it, smoking spice here and there and hiding under my bunk because I'm in my head so much. And I started thinking about how selfish I was to try to sustain this codependent relationship simply because I didn't want to be alone anymore. So when she started talking about separating, that's when I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. As soon as I said that, I'm pregnant. Now, I don't know if it was true. How can I know that? I'm on a prison payphone, like on the on the second tier at Lompoc Penitentiary. I have no idea if she's telling the truth or not. She's telling me all sorts of crazy stuff. She's telling me that she's pregnant. She's telling me that she's back on heroin. And as soon as I tell her that I don't want to be with her, she starts flooding she hung up on me. She starts flooding my email with these insane messages. Like, I accept you for who you are. You can smoke, you can be dirty, you don't have to shower, you can shoot heroin, and I'll just cook for you and I'll fuck you when you come home. I swear to God, this is stuff that she was like psycho. Like, what? What about you being pregnant? She never brought it up again. I'm starting to think that it's not true, but I don't know. I really don't know what's going on. Now, meanwhile, at Lompoc, I'm working out. I'm getting in a consistent workout schedule. And I'm doing drugs as often as I can, but you got to realize that drugs in prison are very different than drug use in the free world. We talked about drops last time, and I remember right around this time, some speed came in, some crystal meth, and it was in like white powder. It was like shards that were crushed up into like powder, and it looked like white powder. And, someone came up to me and they're like, hey fool, you want to buy some white, dog? And, meth in California, white or clear. When I grew up in Santa Barbara, it was called clear. But it seems like in LA and a lot of other parts of California, people are calling it white. That's what I always call cocaine. But, whatever. Drug lingo changes. And I'm sure people are going to comment and say that this is what it's called over here. And this is, what it is, whatever. But somebody came up to me and offered me white. Now, it was about that much. If I could quantify that on if I could quantify dollar value for what that would be, crystal meth value on the street would be $1 to $2. Yes, that's how that's how small this was, and they wanted $100 for it. And meth is not my drug of choice. I don't even like crystal meth. I hate it, especially in jail. There's nothing worse than being in a cell twacked out, especially when you don't draw. Like, I don't draw. All I can do is like the Stussy sign over and over and over again. And like when you're tweaking, you're all about it. You're just like Stussy sign, the 3 lines, then another 3 lines, and then you connect them. And you like show it to your cellmate, and he's like all twacked out. Bomb. Then you come down, you're like, what the fuck? This looks like my binder when I was in 4th grade. Crumple it up, and that's it. 19 hours of tweaking out on Stussy signs just to go in your waste paper basket. But with that being said, I'm a complete garbage pail drug addict. Is that the way to say it? You know what I mean. Where I'll do any drug. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Anything that will alter my conscience, I'll do. Even if I don't like it. That's a testament to how much I don't like I don't even like weed. But I like it just a little bit more than I like reality. So the whole point is to make your reality better than what it is, so that you don't have to hate yourself enough where you have to escape it. But at this particular time, I was just hating life. I mean, I didn't know if my wife was pregnant. She's talking about seeing other guys, so I'm essentially going through a breakup. Jamie Lake is, I'm extorting him. And even though he deserved it, I don't feel good about it. It's like, I should have just beat him up. That's it. Extorting him, watching him, like, anytime he gets anything, like, someone will be like, hey, Jamie, here's the ice cream I owe you, and I'll just go up to him and snatch it out of his hands. I'll be like, bitch, give me that. I just start kind of feeling bad about it. Just like we were talking about earlier, like when I'm talking about my ex and I'm talking about her kid, I'm talking about her mom, like, believe me, I do feel bad about it. Part of the reason I tell my stories on here, aside from just being entertainment, is I'm externalizing them. I'm processing mistakes that I've made so that I can try to be a better person, and people have told me that a lot of stuff I says helps make them a better person too. Namely butt fucking conga line, shit like that. But hopefully the stuff I say resonates with you, or, certain people, and can help you. So I get the speed. I go in on it with like 4 other people. $1 or $2 worth street value. It's this much. It's like a bump. It's a bump. Imagine a bump of coke or meth. That's what this is. A little bump. And we're going to split it between 3 people. 4 people altogether. 3 other people besides me. So 4 people. We make it into like one line. It's about this big and it's like super thin. Everyone's fighting. No, yours is bigger. No, yours is bigger. And then we all snort it. We make a little tutor out of like, I don't know, a pen or something. Do a line of this meth. We did try to slam it. And we're probably like, well, you fucking poser. Why didn't you shoot it? Like I said, binkies are problematic. They clog pretty frequently. And you have to like run a wire through them or a piece of chest hair through the hollow insulin syringe point. It just can be an issue, especially when multiple people are using it. So we just decided to snort it. And it didn't really do much. And one of the issues is I still didn't have my commissary. My commissary still hadn't come. And I often get the chronology of events mixed up because I've been to prison multiple times. But if I remember correctly, at this point, I was going off credit or paying stuff off with the morphine, which was only worth $10 in commissary. So I just split this. And one of the guys that had done the speed with us didn't even pay for it. He was just like some cool skinhead guy from San Diego it was kind of like Jim Carrey and everyone liked him. That's where I got the hammercock thing. He'd be like, would you look at the hammercock on that guy? And he was just kind of like a silly skinhead guy. But it's one of those people that was a skinhead when he was younger and then kind of just outgrew it. But what are you going to do? You have swastikas on your fucking cheek. Yeah, he had like face tattoos. And I'm like, what are you in here for? He's like, coyoting, which means that he was smuggling illegal immigrants, Hispanic families, from Mexico into San Diego. So you're a skinhead, but you're smuggling Hispanics into the country. And the other skinheads aren't tripping on that? Nah, man. It's a hustle, bro. Okay, but that very conflicting for everything that you stand on. Anyway, at this point, I'm getting things on credit. And, I'm getting Suboxone. And the way that it was working at this place is that it was basically not a credit place for the drugs. That was one of the politics. People weren't really fronting drugs. Now, occasionally, when Kong had given me that 100 of heroin, that $100 paper, he gave me credit. But general rule of thumb at Lompoc, at least in 2017, is that you it has to be cash on delivery, COD, straight transaction. And what's considered a transaction in federal prison, what's considered cash, is stamps. So each book of stamps, we've talked about it, 20 stamps is like $5. And there's like a rubber band, like a little, like almost like a hair tie thing, like a little teeny rubber band around it. So like a little $5 thing of stamps is like that big. So if you have like $100 in stamps, it's like a stack like that with like rubber bands. And like people walk around with it like it's cash. Now you can only have 3 books of stamps on you at one time. And, like if you're walking through the metal detector and one of the COs searches you and finds more than 3 books of stamps, technically they can take it. I've known a lot of guys in the feds that had like $10,000, $15,000 worth of stamps in their mattress, wherever, and they got hit. Income that, or money that they had saved up for years and years and years, and it got taken from them. And people are like, why would you want that many stamps? Do you want to write that? You want to write 15,000 letters? Oh, that's worth nothing. Well, that's how people that's how they launder money. That's how they turn prison revenue into street money. Situation when I was in debt at Victorville, they sold me, X amount of stamps for X amount of dollars, and I came out on top. So like, if I need $2,000 worth of stamps to pay off debts, say I owe a bunch of money in there, I can send someone $1,200 and they give me $2,000 worth of stamps. So I make $800. So there's an incentive to turn that stamp money into street money. And that's why all the prices in there are so inflated. And it starts, after all the cuts and the laundering fees, the prices look a little bit more, even though it's still a lot more than it would be on the street. It looks a little bit more like street prices. A gram might be 400 in stamps. And by the time that it gets washed and somebody on the street gets paid, it's down to like $140, $150, something like that. So if you understand how that works. So people weren't fronting drugs, but stamps was something that a lot of people were fronting. And usually the people that have the stamps are the store guys. So there's always people running stores. They're very organized people. Like I suck at running a store. I've tried it like 100 times, and people come, they're like, "Hey Ryan, let me get some donuts." I'm like, "All right, cool, bro." And I don't write it down, And then pretty soon my entire locker's empty, and I have like 4 names written, but I had like, $1,000 worth of store. But I'm just so disorganized I can't do it. You have to be meticulously organized and keep track. And these store guys, will sell sodas for ice cold sodas. They'll fill their trash can with ice and fill it with sodas. They'll sell a soda for like 4 stamps, which is like $1. And so the store guys always have stamps. So what you would do if you're a drug addict is you find different store guys that want to give you stamps for commissary. Now there's limits on certain items like soda cans, and or you can only get like 2 12-packs of sodas. So a lot of times the store guys will have a bunch of stamps that they made selling, commissary items in their store, and they'll want you to get the limit items because that way they can multiply it. They can get, instead of just getting 2 12-packs, they can get 40 12-packs because they have everyone that owes them money for stamps getting them that. So what you do if you're a drug addict is you basically, rob Peter to pay Paul. You go to this guy, you're like, "Yeah, bro, give me this and I'll go to store for you." And then sometimes your money doesn't hit and you start owing people money. Now, my parents had cut me off. My store hadn't gotten there yet. And remember, I'd brought atomic fireballs and I'd left a vast majority of my stuff to Mike Miles. He was my cellie at MDCLA. And when I had asked my ex-wife for money, she sent me $10. So now I'm off and running. I'm getting the 2 morphines a day, but they're worth like $10. So that's like $20 a day. And to be honest with you, I'm such a junkie that I'm doing them too. I'm trying to do Suboxone the most, and you can't, it cancels out the effect of the morphine. You can't feel the morphine if you're already on the Suboxone. And if it's the other way around, as we know, if you're actually addicted, you can go into precipitated withdrawal. So I'm just doing this juggle, trying to do as many drugs as possible. The speed was the first thing that actually got me into an issue. I think I had to put $40 or $50 worth of stamps into it, $30, whatever it was. And I went to get it fronted by somebody. Now, I owed probably 10 different people stamps at this point, and I had nobody that was sending me money. My parents weren't sending me money. I did call my friend Max, and I think he sent me $250. So I'd gone to store at some point right when I had gotten there, and everybody saw me come back from store with like these huge, laundry bags full of commissaries. They're like, "Oh, Leone's got money. Let's go try to scheme on that white boy. Hey bro, look, I got these hand quilted beanies that I made. It has Winnie the Pooh on it. Do you want one?" Why the fuck would I want that? They're like, "I don't know." All right. Everyone has their little scams that they're trying to run on you or whatever. Like people come up to you, they'll be like, "Look at these fried burritos. Just, I'll give them to you now. Just give me $9 back on store." And for someone that already has impulsivity issues, I'm like, "Yeah, let me get that. I got you. And in my head, I'll figure it out tomorrow." And like I said, this is when, my prison ideology really started getting skewed because I'm seeing hypocrisy all around me. I'm seeing contradictions. I'm seeing people solid. To me, solid's not being a fucking rat, not being a child molester, not running scams on people, not rolling it up over debts. That's what's solid to me. But it's a much broader thing. It's wider in scope than that. It's, your word has to be good. Your reputation can't be poo-poo. And my junkie optimism, let me get those stamps. Let me get these stamps. And I'm just doing as many drugs as possible. I'm getting stamps from various store people and thinking that commissary or that my property is going to transfer from MDCLA and I'm going to have the atomic fireballs and that is going to turn into like $400 for me, whatever it was. So I'm thinking this in my head and I already talked to store guys who wanted it. And see the chronology, I don't remember if I already had it at this point. Whatever the case, it's just hard to remember this part of the story. Whatever the case, that speed set off a chain reaction of bad events for me. So I had borrowed stamps from one of the white guys in a different unit that ran a gambling ticket. So gambling tickets, it's a point spread for football. It was football season still. And, Baltimore's catching 6 points, whatever. And you can do a bet. You can do parlays, whatever, just like you do on the street. And this guy had mostly tickets, or that was like his hustle. He ran the ticket and he would sell stamps that he would get from the ticket because he'd have runners from each unit that would come and collect bets. Now you did the bets and stamps. So let me put 20 stamps on the 49ers game. I'm going to take the 49ers. They're catching 8 points, whatever. If you win, the odds are like 10 to 1, or the payout's 10 to 1. So, you put 5 stamps in, you get 50 back, whatever it is. Is that even the right math? I don't know. Doesn't matter. This guy had a bunch of stamps, and what he needed was copy cards because you need to have a copy card to make photocopies in the education department. So he went to he would go to the education department, he would use these copy cards. He would get the stamps, and this was an item that he always needed. So people that he would sell the stamps to, he'd get more copy cards so he could make more copies of his gambling tickets, and he'd mass distribute it to all the units with his different runners. That was one of my main sources of stamps. So I was already in debt with him. I was doing Suboxone. I did that heroin, which I didn't need stamps for. I had told that guy Kong that my parents were coming to visit me, which was true. And I knew that I'd be able to pay that with my parents. I'd just be like, hey, send them $100. I wasn't going to try to rack up some big debt before they got there because in my head, I don't know. I was thinking that I'd be able to get people to send me money or whatever. And some people did, little amounts, 20, max had sent me 250. But this guy I was in debt with already. And I was supposed to be going to store for him like on Monday. This was like a Friday when I did the speed. And I went to him and I'm like, hey, I need 7 more books of stamps, which is like $35. Yeah, I had to put $35. It was 7 books of stamps. I was like, hey, I need more stamps. Now I already owed the guy like $80, and I think there was a limit on the copy cards, but he wanted store. But copy cards was like an important part because he used them to make the tickets. So he was relying on me to get the copy cards. If he doesn't get the copy cards and he doesn't have enough copy cards, he doesn't get enough tickets, and it affects his business. So on that Friday, when this guy's like, hey fool, you want this white? And I went to these other guys who weren't my friends. I'm like, hey, let's all pitch on the speed. They're like, okay. But my name is on it. And for me to put my $35 into this paper of crystal meth, I had to go get more stamps, and I'd already exhausted all the resources in my unit. I'd go up to like the Paisa store guy. Hey, can I get some more stamps? He'd be like, Leon, you owe me, or that's Asher. Can't do a Paisa voice right now, but you owe me $100 already. And I didn't realize it, but I was in debt like $200-300 at this point, maybe even more than that. I mean, if you count Kong, it's probably in debt like $400 or $500 already. I'd been at this place like 10 days, 12 days, something like this. And, I know better than this. I've done time. I know you're not supposed to do this. If you don't have it on your books, don't get it on credit. I mean, that's just like a really, really safe way to do time. I mean, really, the best way to do time is not to make friends, stick to yourself, stay in your cell as much as possible, and say that run Christian. Don't get involved with the politics. Don't run up debts. Don't have sex with punks. But I'm a dope fiend, so these political things go out the window. And no, I didn't check in, if that's what you think this is leading up to. But so he told me eventually I couldn't get tickets in my unit. So I had to go out to the yard. This guy was on a whole different side of this penitentiary. He was like on the east side, I was on the west side. Or it might have been the opposite. Whatever, doesn't matter. And I met with him at yard, and I'm like, hey, I need 7 books of stamps. And he's like, hey, Leone, you already owe me, $90, $80, 80 or $90, whatever it was. Listen, when I have people get me store for the stamps, I have the white guys get me the copy cards because I know that I can rely on you. So what you're telling me is that you're going to be able to get me the store that you already owe me, plus I'm going to give you these new books of stamps. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. 100%. He's like, you already have the money on your books? I was like, 100%. I had like $2 on my books. If that. I don't even know, because you have to buy CoreLink's email credits and phone. You have to put money on the phone. It's not like in state prison where when you call someone, they put money on their phone account. And when you're in federal prison, you're responsible for putting it on your phone. So I do this speed. I get this, these 7 books of stamps from him. I owe everybody in the unit. And it's like on a Friday, I do a line. It doesn't burn. I don't feel it. Doesn't even make me horny. Usually when I do a line of crystal meth, I'm like, everybody out of the cell, I got to beat off. And everyone's like, what the fuck? Weirdo. And they all leave. And I'm just like, I just won't leave. Or I won't stop. I mean, it'll be like count time. It'll be like, stand up, Leone. I'm like under my covers just getting it. They're like, Leone, stop, man. I'm like, no. I just can't stop. I turn into a straight up sexual deviant on crystal meth. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, that's what it does to me. It makes me either paranoid or it turns me into a sex fiend. I'm not even into sex. I just want to masturbate, which is weird. I'll be like fucking my girlfriend, or I'll be fucking my wife all twacked out on meth, and I'll be like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll stop fucking, and I'll like go in the bathroom to beat off. And just be like, sometimes without even porn, I'll just have my eyes open, just looking forward, just getting it. And like it'd be at the point where like I'd be in motel rooms like with my friends, and and like I was not allowed to go in the bathroom. Like if I was doing meth, like there'd be like a sign on the bathroom door, no access for Leone. And I'd be like, dude, I got to shit though. They were like, no way, Leone. Every single time that you come over and you slam meth, you will not come out of the bathroom and then the shampoo bottles smell like shit. Fuck that. So this meth was bunk. Now this is the second time within the course of like 4 days that I had paid like a significant amount of money for drugs. 100 for the heroin. This was this, even though I didn't, it was these other guys had gotten some of the stamps. We got some of it on credit. I forget what it was, but it wasn't all the way paid. We had to have like a certain amount of it in stamps, and then we got like the last $20 or $30 on credits. That was just another thing that I owed. And even though that was somebody else's, where they're like, I for sure got you on store, this is another debt that I took upon myself that was just about to, a bunch of crazy shit was about to happen over all these debts. So, everyone, I'm like, looking, we snort it, and I'm like, hey, do you guys feel it? And they're like, I don't know, do you? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, when you're asking if you feel something, it's usually means it's no good. As we've talked about many, many times. If you do a drug and you're like, dude, do you feel it? Then you're not doing a good drug. Or do you feel it yet? But we didn't feel it at all. So I go back to the guy that had sold it to us, and he says the same thing that Kong had said to me initially. He's like, what are you saying? That I'm a liar? You're saying that I'm a liar? Well, fuck that. Just making all this noise. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. So I have this going on. Now I have these debts, and this leads to, just a lot of anxiety. On top of the fact that my wife is just being a weirdo. She's like sending me messages. She's like, I miss my daddy, ... That's it. Just these like super weird, terse sexual messages. And I'll just be like, dude, ugh. And I just stop responding to her. It's like, I'll give her the silent treatment while I'm in prison. That'll drive her nuts. And that's exactly what I did. So the weekend's going by, and, I'm calling my parents, Dad, hey, can you send me like $300 or $400? I'm kind of in debt right now over gambling. My dad's like, no, I told you before you went in this time that I'm not paying your debts when you go to prison. I did that last time. You spent thousands of dollars. You're a big boy now. You should have learned the first time. I'm not bailing you out this time. I'm like, but Dad, they're gonna kill me. My dad's like, I don't care. Click. I'm like, fuck. So I start calling like everybody that I know. It's on my contact list. No one will give me money. I mean, people are giving me like $20, stuff like that, which is cool. But now store's coming up. I think store's on Monday. No, it was on Tuesday. It was on a Tuesday. So I'm like, damn, like, I didn't know what to do. And I'm pretty sure my property hadn't come, or maybe it had. I'm not really sure. But when you're in prison and you start owing people, it is the worst feeling you could possibly imagine. You go to sleep at night, and my cellie, the weirdo that would eat the duplex cookies, the luxury Oreo cookies, and he wouldn't share with me, and he wouldn't, no way you're doing heroin in here, bud. That guy, he had paroled, he got out, so now I had a single cell, and I would just stay. I remember I'd stay up at night, and these are the thoughts that would keep me up. That I was in debt, and I didn't know how I was going to pay it, and I was really, really, really filled with anxiety, badly. I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't sleep. And then I would also think about my ex, regardless of what she put me through, regardless of how much I believe she didn't actually care about me, I still was saddened by the fact that the relationship was coming to an end, just like you do with any relationship, regardless of how toxic it is. Because you have the same thing that you have with drugs. You have euphoric recall. A billion memories. You think of the one or two that you guys were actually kind and gentle to each other. And that's, you always, I find when I'm in a relationship and when it's coming to an end, that I always think about the beginning. Because the beginning of a relationship is always the best part. That honeymoon phase, right in the beginning. And whenever it's coming to an end, that's the period that I go back to. That's what I remember. And that's what makes me sad every time. And that's what makes it very hard to get out of relationships. But I did learn with that particular relationship that's just an illusion. That was my false interpretation of what that relationship really was. Everything that happened afterwards was what it actually was, what the relationship actually was, not what my perceived illusion of what I wanted it to be was in the beginning. Because when you meet someone, you want them to be a certain way. You're in love with the idea of what they could be. They're very rarely that person. And that's just the life rule. That is nothing. It's not exclusive to Craigslist whores like her that suck dick for Tylenol 3s and Traminols. And probably Tylenol PMs. I'm not gonna say that she wouldn't do that. I mean, a Tylenol PM is a Tylenol PM, is what she would say. $3 is $3, bud. So I'm staying up at night, and I'm worried, and I'm not calling her. And finally, on Monday, I wake up and I call Max again. I'm like, hey man, he had already sent me $250, I believe. And I was like, hey dude, I'm in a lot of trouble right now. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I owe a lot of money right now. And he's like, for drugs? I'm like, dude, shh. It's like on the recorded call. I'm like, no, just for like, clothes, just so I could get on my feet. He's like, dude, aren't you doing like 90 days? I'm like, yeah, but I thought that my ex-wife was going to send me money and she didn't send me money. And him and I had a falling out at some point, I think over the CPS thing. I'd called on him for help And he didn't want to help me because he didn't think we deserved to have the kid. And at the time, it really upset me. In retrospect, I understand. I completely understand now. He was actually being the solid one, not me, because I didn't deserve to have a kid and neither did she. So when I called on him for a character witness and he said no, I was like, dude, you are such a piece of shit. But you know what? I was the piece of shit. She was the piece of shit. And that poor little kid was just a victim in the whole thing. So we had started talking again. And one thing that I haven't touched on, since I've been at Lompoc or even MDC, LA for that matter, is my ex, Casey. That's not her real name, but she's the girl that I was engaged to for a couple years. And then her dad got very sick. We went out to Pittsburgh. And because I was emotionally unavailable, and I relapsed on heroin as a result because I just couldn't be there for her. She needed a shoulder to cry on, and I was so dead inside at that point. Prison PTSD had really affected me. I was, as they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was a dry drunk during that period, and I just wasn't available for her. And she left me, and it broke my heart because that's someone I actually cared about. And I know she cared about me. That was an actual real relationship. It wasn't some Insta family, it was, we really connected, and she was really my best friend for the time that we were together. She's someone that I want nothing but good things for. I hope she's happy now. But her and I had started talking before I'd gone and turned myself into prison because I was so unhappy. I was having, I tried to commit suicide on Christmas Eve, just right around that time. And she had lost one of her exes or one of her friends to suicide. So she was very empathetic to that. And she knew that I'm the kind of guy that's crazy enough to actually do it. And she was walking me through it, trying to help me get out of that gloom. And it kind of turned into her flirting with me to some degree. Like I said, she'd be on Ambien and she'd be like, all right, I'm tired. I miss you, baby. And I'd be like, what? She'd be like, nothing. I got to go. Click. But she'd throw little signs. And I forgot to really go into what happened with all that. So when I'd gone to MDCLA, she started writing me right as I was kicking the alcohol, right as I'm kicking the heroin. And, my ex-wife didn't go with me to court dates, which would hurt my feelings so badly. I had so much anxiety about these court dates. And she knew that. And she'd always find a reason not to go with me. She'd never go with me to court. Karina, my wife, that I have Nico with, never missed a court date. She'd be pregnant. She'd take a bus, and she'd leave sometimes at 6 a.m. and stay in the courtroom pregnant all day long just to see me for 2 or 3 minutes. That's somebody that actually loves me. That's a real relationship. My ex-wife wouldn't even come with me. And I was the one, hey, come with me, I'll drive. And she wouldn't even come. She didn't love me. She's a scumbag. And it really hurt my feelings. And, I remember on one of my last court dates, I got out and I called Casey. And she was actually somebody that listened to me. And she was in AA. She had gotten sober because she had married some other guy. And I guess they were in some toxic relationship. Someone I kind of know. Whatever. I don't really know the details of that. But from what I've heard, he was abusive to her. But I don't really know. I don't know what the situation was. And it seemed like we were going to form a relationship. It seemed like we were going to get back together. It seemed that way to me. Maybe I was delusional. I was drinking a lot. I was doing heroin back then. But when I went into prison for the second time, when I turned myself in, that was one of the things that I kind of clung on to as hope. Okay, if I can go in there and I can get healthy, then maybe I can get back together with this person that I actually care about, that was my best friend at one point. And I go in there, and she's really cool in the beginning. She's emailing me all the time, and she gets to a point, she sends me an email, and she goes, hey, I talked to my sponsor, and she doesn't want me talking to you anymore. She thinks that it's bad for my recovery. And I'm like, and I was kicking, and I was fighting with my current wife at the time, and I was just like, you know what? Okay. And she stopped talking to me. She didn't write me any letters past that point. And it really, any optimism or hope that had inflated at that point was instantly deflated. And I was saddened by it. But I still thought about her quite a bit while I was on that violation. So, I think I forgot to go into that she had essentially cut communication with me because her sponsor had told her. So what ends up happening is the only person that I have is Max, because I call my ex-wife that day too. And I'm like, listen. And she's like, oh, you haven't talked to me for 2 days and you're in jail. You don't love me. And I'm like, it's not that I don't love you. It's that the relationship is over. You're the one that originally proposed it. I don't know what to tell you. You were so insensitive. You were so selfish. I'm like, listen, let's not. Can you please send me money? I'm in debt. I really need some money. And like, she was also getting my book royalties at the time. That's another thing. She was getting my book royalties. I don't know. It was like $200 or $300. It wasn't that much, if that, at that point. Like, my book wasn't doing well in that period. And I was like, can you just send me my royalties? It was like right around the time where they were due, like the end of the month. And she's just like, no. You have a child out here. It's your responsibility. I'm like, are you talking about my unborn child or are you talking about your child? She's like, both. I'm like, so you're pregnant. She just hangs up on me. So she's playing these fucking mind games with me. I don't know what's going on. And Max is like, listen, he's running his own business. I think he was running some sort of catering service at the time. He's like, look, I can try to send it, but I'm really busy. And I'm like, okay. He's like, it's not for drugs, right? Like, you're not going to get, it's not a drug debt that you're going to get killed over if I don't send. I'm like, listen, it's imperative that you send it. So he's supposed to send it. I'm going to store Tuesday. And, you can check the computer to see if the money hits. I go to sleep that night, and I'm very, very worried. I stay up very late, probably till like 4 a.m. I wake up at 6, and I go and I check the computer to see if the money hit. And it'll say the person's last name, and it'll say how much they sent. I don't have anything. I have like $2, maybe $1 on my books now. I'm tripping. And people are already coming up to me and giving me the list. The store guys are giving me the list for the stamps that I owe them. The white guy that ran the ticket, he is, he brings me a list. And everybody that brings me a list is like, you got me for sure, right? I'm counting on this. If you don't have it, just tell me. Now, I should have just told them, but I'm like, you know what? I got you. I was like a fucking politician. Vote for me for unit rep. That's how I felt. Like, I was so full of shit, and I was just like, yeah, you know what? You can count on me, man. Put it in the books. It's as good as you already have it. You can already start spending that money. Fuck it. Whatever. And I still don't know what I'm going to do. Now, technically, I still can get it that day. So I'm calling Max over and over and over again. He's not picking up. I'm calling my parents. I am in just a straight panic. And, there's people like in line for the phone. They're like, come on, Leone. You've been on the phone no one's picking up. She doesn't love you, bro. She doesn't love you. And I'm just like wanting to kill people. Like, wow, what am I going to do? So I end up going to dinner because we're shopping at commissary that night after chow. And, I call Max again, nothing. Radio silence. I'm like, fuck. I don't even know what to say because I'd already told people that, that I for sure had it and that they were going to get it. So I go to chow that night, and there's this guy, Terry. He's like an older white guy, and he's in a white gang. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it's one of the bigger white gangs in prison. He's an old guy, though. He's like probably like in his 50s, 60s. It's like an OG white gangster guy. And this is a white power gang, not like some, not like a I don't know. Yeah, it's like a skinhead type gang. And he comes up to me at chow, and he just hands me a napkin, just like this, and I'm just I can't even think straight. I'm so nervous because I know that I'm going to be screwed unless some miracle happens. And after dinner, I go check my account, and money landed. If that doesn't happen, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to get beat up. I'm going to look really bad. People are going to yell at me. I'm going to be a joke. My words poo-poo, et cetera, et cetera. So this guy Terry comes up to me and just hands me this napkin. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, it's a 50 paper of heroin. You want that, right? I was like, he's like, look, I just need stamps by like noon tomorrow. If you can get me stamps by noon tomorrow, you can have that heroin right there. I have this heroin in my hand. I'm just like, all right, cool, I got you. What am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? Well, I figure if I'm going to be screwed that night, I may as well be high on heroin. That's probably better than just being screwed and being sober the whole time. So I go back to my unit and, everybody's like getting ready to shop. Like I even got people like coming up to me and being like, hey bro, do you want me to come help you carry your bags? That's like an old, the old shoe shine hustle. Like, hey man, I'll help you carry your groceries back from store. And then, you're supposed to like buy them an ice cream sandwich or something, It's like some petty shit, but that's, so there's like all these people like, hey man, I'll help you, like trying to act like they're my buddies. I'm like, yeah, I just got to take a shit. Now I don't even get the binky. I don't even want anyone to know I have it because I'm already anticipating that things are really, really going to go south for me. So, I put the little sheet up in, in my bathroom and I was thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do? Maybe I can ask Meech for the money. I don't know. Is that weird to ask like a black dude for like $300 or $400 worth of store or whatever, just to so I don't get killed by other races or my own people? And I'm sitting in the bathroom. I'm pretending like I'm taking a shit. I'm like pressing the toilet a bunch, to do the courtesy flushing so that it makes it sound like I'm actually doing it. And I stir the heroin up with a pen cap, and I close a nostril, and I just what you do is you cut the plastic spoon, so you make it like flat, so it's not round in the front, it's like flat, and then you can kind of pour it into your nose. And people like will hang upside down on a bunk because they're like, look man, when you do it like this, it saturates in your brain, brother. It's total bullshit. I just did it real quick, went down my nose. I taste it burns. It feels like you're snorting a line of chlorine or something. It just burns, makes your eyes water. And then you can feel this vinegar, bitter taste of heroin going down your throat. And I did it. I washed my face a little bit, wash my hands, go out, and a whole bunch of bad shit's about to happen. We will get into that in the next installment of my second time in federal prison. I hope the audio is better, and I hope that you can like, comment, subscribe, send me emails about the Narcan thing. I'm about to launch that whole initiative after the 21st, because that's when I get paid for the raffle that we did. And once we have the money for that, that's when we get the nonprofit, that's when the snake ordinance blotter, and that's where we're going to start sending it. People that I've already said are coming, you guys are first on the list. We're already sent out some. We're sending out more, I believe, on Friday or Saturday, or next time we're together. And I'm going to grab the painting that I owe Tedford, the winner, and I'm looking forward to the future. I have a big meeting right now, and I hope that it goes well. I will see you guys next time. What do you think I'm going to say? Guess what I'm going to say right now. Palabra.